So hello everyone, this is Michi Hoyer from Avid Chronic Racing, and I'm finally back after some weeks of silence because we had so many stuff going on in the background. We had Singapore race in Formula Sim Racing, we had Suzuka race in Formula Sim Racing, which was a back-to-back race. So yeah, the calendar was full, had a lot of appointments, and not too much time to do any videos for you guys. I'm sorry about that. But finally I'm back, and today we're going to do some little driving on Circuit of the Americas, do some installation laps, focus on some parts of the basic setup maybe. And yeah, basically this video is for all of you. I would love to show some knowledge, would love to show some passion to you guys, and share useful information for all of you. But I want you guys to get you known about something. Some of you might already heard of it. The Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy. It's live for some months now, and the academy is basically for everyone who wants to know more about racing, wants to get deeper into sim racing, wants to start creating experience, creating knowledge, testing with a lot of people, very fast people, and get tips and tricks of all the fast guys from Avid Chronic Racing in Formula Sim Racing or whatever sim, or whatever series, or whatever race car. So I would like to introduce the Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy to you here. As you can see from our website, there's some little exposure about what Formula Sim Racing is about what Avid Chronic Racing would like to do with a driving academy. So if you guys are interested in what we do, in how we work, in how we do share our knowledge, or in how we like to get people some more knowledge, experience, and more practice in, check out our website. I've posted the link of the Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy description down in the YouTube description of this video. And if you encounter any questions towards this Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy, just shoot me them mid-stream. But as I already said, today we're going to focus on some driving in Circuit of the Americas, which is round 15 of Formula Sim Racing 2017 season. And here we are, currently standing in the pits. As you can see, factory defaults on the FSR car, so just a very basic set. And we just go out and do some installation laps here around Circuit of the Americas. So we got 90 liters on fuel on the option tire. There are two tires available, the option tire and the prime tire, in terms for dry conditions. In case of rain, obviously we got intermediates and heavy wets, which were used quite heavily in the weekend in Japan, where we had rain all weekend. Like Ace was covered in full rain, and the World Championship race was covered in full rain. There was quite a lot of wet driving and special driving skills required to finish those races. Unfortunately, after some accidents at Suzuka, I was not able to finish the race because with the broken suspension it dragged me to the grass on the approach to turn 1, literally ending my dream of a good result there. But anyway, it's Circuit of the Americas now going on. Formula 1 is in the upcoming weekend as well, and Circuit of the Americas. So it actually makes sense to drag you guys around this track here and show a little bit of this beautiful racetrack, I have to say. I think it's in the calendar for like 4 or 5 years, but it's established as one of the most favorite tracks of some drivers. And as I said, we're gonna do some installation laps first. I'm gonna drag you around this brilliant circuit here for the first time before we then enter the process in how to make a setup here, where we're gonna focus on anti-roll bars specifically. So this is the final turn. We just start our first lap here. Very special corner. Turn 1. Blind spot apex on to the left hand side. And I outbroke myself right immediately. Full power down to turn 1. This is a full throttle corner. And then there comes the stuff, turn 3, 4, 5 and 6, which reminds you of Beckett's, Chapel, Maggots, of Silverstone. Entering second sector, turn 7. Turn 8, uphill right-hander, very narrow corner, followed by turn 9. Need to be very patient to get on the throttle. Turn 10 is a full throttle corner here. Hard braking for turn 11. Outbraking myself again. Hairpin back to the long straight, where you have like close to 1 kilometer, I think. Full throttle, where you max out the engine. And then a hard braking for turn 12. And this is a very technical part of the track right now. Approaching turn 13 here. Right-hander, which is followed by another little right-hander. And the very opposite for braking into 15 and 16. Then here's the opponent of turn 8 in Turkey. Turn 17 and 18 of Circuit of the Americas. It's just the other way around. Followed by turn 19 and turn 20, with turn 20 being the last corner of the circuit. So this is a lap around here at Circuit of the America. And as you can see, it has quite some characteristica like this turn 1. There is no turn 1 in the Formula 1 calendar where you're braking up the hill, going blind into turn 1. Second characteristica definitely is a Silverstone-like SS here. And you really can feel the cars like swinging around, wanting to step out. Same here, turn 7, 8 and 9, all on the hills, making the car very unsettled. Another crucial part of the track where you really need to make sure you have a great exit to either defend or attack an opponent on the following straight. Hey Ringo. Thanks for being around and joining me here on stream, and thanks for your words, I appreciate it. Turn 12 again, entering in the tricky and technical section of the track. Need to be very patient and full of control of the car to really be fast around here. One of my favorite corners, I call it the right-hander turn 8. A very technical corner. Can lose a lot of time in here. This braking for turn 19 is blind as well, so it's quite difficult. And since we're still on installation laps and see if everything works, we go back to the pits to now start working on the setup. But yeah, I mean, this track really is only 4 or 5 years, as I already said, into the calendar. And it's not only me that likes the track. I mean, a lot of Formula 1 drivers also like it. So we now gonna see what to do on our setup here. And we have a look at first into the right tire compound, which will be prime for like 90 liters, which is selected at the minute. And I always do favorize testing with a heavy car because despite the fact that Formula 1 is a sprint race series, 1.5 hour and only 2 pit stops, most likely, require to have a really good balanced car. So you want to do all your setup work on race fuel, since it's parc fermé anyway. So you really want to have a good balanced car, a car you trust. So we're gonna start with that right away here. The reason why I broke myself is probably the maximum pedal force. I put them up to 100. Brake ducts can be decreased to 2 because we only have 2 to 3 heavy braking zones, which is according to turn 10, approach to turn 12, and the approach to turn 1. Those are the heavy braking zones. Wings, we keep it like that. The brake map is personal liking. I would like to have it at 5, so the car is a little bit turning on entry. And right at the minute, we do have a differential which is a little bit understeery, but that will be required to get perfect exits out of turn 1, out of turn 10, out of turn 12. So what we really want to focus on is the anti-roll bars. I will keep them as they are right now and do some explanation later on here. Furthermore, we just increase, now we keep the caster. We put white distribution a little bit more to the front just to get a little bit more grip in on the front end for slow corners. And then we go out and have our first tries. Since the FSR Ace Championship is free to enter for every one of you, you may want to be interested to have a race on this astonishing track here in Ace. As I said, you simply need to register yourself on Formula Sim Racing forums, and the race is in 2 weeks, so I think it's the 5th or the 4th of November where the Ace race takes place. So if you're interested in having a race at this fabulous track, just sign up at the forums, sign up on GPCOS, the league system of Formula Sim Racing, and give yourself a go around here. So, the first time we really go full throttle along this main back straight here. We max out with 7th gear quite badly, so we need to adjust that a little bit. On the gearbox, which is changeable here on this FSR 2017 car, since it's based on the Formula 1 2009 regulations. Something else I noticed is that the 2nd gear is too long, whereas the 1st gear is too short. I will show you around in the last corner. As soon as I hit 1st, the car wants to spin around. So this is 2nd, there is 1st, and there comes the spin. Hi Kolak, thanks for being around as well. That's very good feedback for me. Since always setup has to do something with personal liking. But if I told you something that helped you being quicker or more happy with the car, I'm happy as well. So stay tuned if you want to find out something about anti-roll bar settings here. And while you watch me driving, you guys might see that I got a very loosey back. Despite the fact the car is understeering a lot on the front. Like here, very understeery car. Despite the fact we do have an understeery car in slow corners, the exits are quite brilliant, like you can smash the throttle without getting any issues. As you can see, very technical part here. And the car likes to step out again on the 1st gear, but I really need it in order to make the turn in. Right-hander turn 8. Very oversteery car here. Same on the exit of 19. There is a little elevation change which unsettles the car quite badly. And this is our first lap here on those primes. Definitely something to improve on. You probably have to ignore the life delta ahead on top of the screen. And we go through the S's again here in the high speed corners. Because the rear is really oversteery at that point, the car turns like really good. Which points me a little bit towards the fact that the aero balance is a little bit too much on the front, since the car wants to step out in high speed corners. That means we got a lot more grip in the front, and we lack grip in the back, whereas the mechanical grip definitely is on our side. Or on the rear side in slow corners. Late braking for turn 12. The rear road though is static at the minute, so there won't be any rubber to build. This is just to make sure that all setup changes we do can be evaluated by track lap time, and not being like distracted with forming grip. A little lock up into turn 20. We went a little bit faster. This just may have to do with the fact that the prime usually takes 1 or 2 laps until the real temperature or the right temperature has been built. Oh, the car is so oversteery, like it's giving me some feeling to be very patient, and I cannot really trust the car in high speed corners. So that means we go through the final sector and then have another pit stop to change something on the car. We locked up a little bit. To my personal liking, the braking balance is a little bit too much on the front. Because especially here around turn 15 and 16 you have to brake and turn in the car. And this understeer we do have in slow corners anyway is not really being helped by braking bias a lot to the front. So the phenomena we now just have about this understeer in slow corners and oversteer in fast corners, this can be fixed with the anti-roll bar setting, as I already told you what we're going to do today. So, having a little rehearsal on what anti-roll bar is doing. The anti-roll bar, or stabilizer as you would say it, elsewise, they control the amount of roll that can be in the car suspension. So a very soft anti-roll bar makes the car bang a lot from left to right when you change steering input, especially when you go through corner 3 to 6, like the Silverstone, Maggots, Chapel, Beckett's. You can find them here on the track, or this setting might apply for Silverstone as well. You are changing direction very quickly, and with a speed of around 215 kph, the G-forces go from left to right quite intense. So you really want to have a car that's good on the front, like steering exactly where you want to go, and you want to have a rear that exactly follows you the way you want the front to go. So we could see from our testing we just had in those first 3 laps on those primes that the front end was very good, like especially I steered the right amount and I steered to the left, the car went immediately to the left, and I steered to the right and the car went like on rails to the right. but only the front. The rear was a little bit nervous. I could like feel the rear coming around. So in order to fix this on the anti-roll bar side, I want to increase the stiffness on the front anti-roll bar, and at the minute we just keep the rear anti-roll bar. Usually a Formula 1 car is a lot more stiffer at the front and rolls a lot more in the back, which is like the way we just set up the anti-roll bars at the minute. Like 50 Newton per millimeter at the front makes the front end not to roll too much to left and right, whereas the rear anti-roll bars are still soft, so the car really could lean from one hand to the from one side to the other side, and like handle the G-forces applying when going from left to right. So we just have a little test if this works, and we do another 2 laps to evaluate a little bit. But you should feel right away like 2 effects with those anti-roll bars. A stiffer anti-roll bar in the front also gives you the benefit that the front end is more pointy in low speed corners. So despite the fact that the car should be a lot more stable through those S's here, and I'm not applying full throttle yet due to cold tires, the car should be a lot more responsive on the front axis into slow corners. Because there, all you need is mechanical grip, and the mechanical grip can then be better transferred from left to right if you have a more stiff suspension. So if you go around in low speed corners all the time, like you would have in Monaco maybe, you want to have quite some stiff front suspension, or quite some stiff front anti-roll bar. Just get perfectly around the corners. Oops, some little oversteering moment, and I forgot to change brake bias, so I take it a little bit lower. And then we try to go a little bit faster on the next upcoming lap. And if you guys have any questions to what setup related things here right now we're talking about, just feel free to ask. I try to answer them while driving. Let's see, we enter the tricky section with 1/10 ahead now. Car's still a little bit too twitchy to me, hence why we lost all the time there. But we should see some time benefit in the slower sections, like turn 1. We made up that 10th already, and we also should make up some time here, turn 11 that is. And with this new setting we were quite able to get a little bit more traction, get a little more speed out of the corner onto the main straight, back straight. And right in this section I hope the car will do a much better job on those corners. It's a lot more stable already. I outbroke myself here a little bit. Right, so we finish our first lap with some 2/10 improvements. Do not outbrake yourself, would help here quite a lot. Tire temperature should be up right now. Slow, let's see if we got some better grip here. Yes, we did. The car feels a lot better. compared to the first run we had. But I'm not really satisfied yet. Like here at the exit of 9 there was a little bit of a twitch moment. Car balance is good on traction. Still a little bit too understeery to me in those slow corners, I have to say. We go through the right-hander turn 8. As you can see, we reduce our time gap to the lap before, which means I can have a lot more confidence in the car meanwhile. Went a little bit wide on here, but we improved our lap time by another 40 thousandths. And still yet I'm not satisfied at all with the car balance. Let's see if I do need a third lap in order to decide on the next steps to do. And I think I can do this already. So we'll head back to the pits again. The Ace race in 2 weeks, by the way, will have a race distance of 56 laps. So we do race a full 100% race distance compared to Formula 1. So the very same. And all I can really tell you is this is a lovely and nice track to get yourself started for FSR. Like Kolak already said. Kulak, I'm sorry, that he was racing Singapore in FSR this year, which was the first fee-free entered race, I think, that season. Right, so with the car still being very twitchy, I found out something else that should be changed, which is the packers. The packers are there to prevent your car from bottoming out when you go over the straight, or when you not extract, when you compress your springs. Here at the back we got packers of 3.3, which is definitely too much. So we lower it to 1.5, and at the front we go to just a half a centimeter. Ride height at the minute with 5.0 centimeters, the diffuser will not work at all. So we put it to 4.0 so that the diffuser is going to start to work. On the front end we softened the suspension a tiny little bit by 2 clicks. And then we will have another go and see whether this improves our lap time like a little bit more. And I still forgot to fix the gearing, but this doesn't matter too much now. So doing the in lap, sorry, not the in lap, the out lap, and I really could feel like the settings helped a lot. One thing about racing cars in general is like that the splitter or the front wing, and especially the rear wing and the diffuser, work a lot better the closer they are to the ground, because there happens the same what takes an airplane into the air, but just on the other side. with the air flowing through some kind of bottleneck, you will generate a lot of downforce just by the body wear, just by the floor of the car. And as soon as the air, or as long as the air flows between the street surface and your bodywork, there's a lot of downforce being generated, giving the car a lot more grip. So with the outlap being close to an end, we try to improve on our lap time. We already did. So we found a 10th in turn 1. And all those changes increased the grip quite a lot on that car, so I had a lot more confidence through turn 6 to 7, 3 to 7 or something. So we're down half a second here. Still have a little bit of understeer in slow corners, which now compromise the exit a little bit. Another nice effect of the lower downforce is, as you can see, we gain some time on the straight, which means that we do have less drag. And this new suspension parts definitely help around this technical part of the track as well. Finding us some another 2/10. And meanwhile the right-handed turn 8, turn 18 to be fair, is a lot easier for me to take. Oh, this exit curb is a little twitchy as it pulls the car a little bit to the right. That's something you really need to look or work on when racing. So second time lap, let's see if we can go faster through those fast chicanes. A little bit of a driving error, which totally took out all the rhythm. But in general, I can trust the car a lot more. Again, a little bit too understeery. Let's see if we can make up all the time difference with the less drag. No, we couldn't. We outbroke ourselves a little bit here. Nope, the car is not turning enough. And the oversteer on full throttle and 6 gears still in place. So we go back to the pits and do some other changes to the car. And I would like to come back to the focus of anti-roll bars. Because on those high-speed corners, the rear end needs to take a lot of forces. So what you really want to have to do is to soften the rear so much that you can like put a lot of pressure on it. You do this either by softening the anti-roll bar, as I just did, but you keep further helping it by reducing the rear packers and making the rear diffuser come to life a little bit more. Furthermore, I now fixed this first gear, which you can see is gap to first and second is quite a lot, so I pull that a little bit longer And I lengthen the second gear a little bit again. And we found out that the 7th is too short, but rather than just adjusting every gear, take one click longer final, and then we adapt the gears just a tiny little bit so that you can have a good average power. And what I forgot to change was the brake bias to this setting. So we try our luck again, go out and see if those changes made any difference. Right now with a more soft anti-roll bar, the understeer and the slow corners should be even worse. But if I can get a really good car through those fast S's here, I really want to have that trade. Especially the acceleration out of this turn needs to be really good, because if you're running in dirty air, the diffuser and the rear end of the car will lose a lot of downforce. So you want to have a lot of mechanical grip in the back to not spin around at the exit of 9, so you can keep close to your enemies or to your opponent to be able to outperform an attack right here. So as you can see, the 7th gear isn't as maxed out as before. The car does not like to spin around when I hit 1st gear again, so that's exactly what I wanted to have. You will see it very good here around turn 16. The car stays stable despite going into 1st gear. So we now can make use of the power of the 1st gear and put it into traction, which should give us another 10th or something throughout the lap. It's just minor, but it's very important. And then we try to improve our lap time even more. As you can see, the better traction of the 1st gear, because the car does not get unbalanced. Now the car is really stable through those corners, and it's quite a bit too stable, I'm afraid. Which means we made the rear anti-roll bars a little bit too soft. Let's see if we can improve our time with good traction in the last sector. 1st gear helps here a little bit. Down into 2nd. Up into 4th. And back into 1st gear, and here's where we should gain a lot of time, and we did. And saved another 1.5 tenths. Now this corner is close to being full throttle on a real stable car. I broke myself here a little bit as well. Get a tiny exit out of 20, which means we go fastest overall by another 10th. Let's try to find a better and faster way through those S's. Nope. We even went a little bit slower than before. But we took out a lot of speeds out of 9. Breaking into 11. And we carry some 2.5 tenths on approach to 12. A little lock up here. Car is a little bit too understeery in that section. So we lost all our time here, basically. This time no outbraking into 19. And good traction out of 20. Will it be enough though? Probably not. No, so we go back to the pits and do some further changing onto anti-roll bars. And we're gonna have a look into a different kind of direction, like do we soften the front anti-roll bars or do we stiffen the rear anti-roll bars? Both more or less give you the same effect, which will make the car more turning, but in a very different way. Like if you stiffen the rear anti-roll bar, the rear gets a lot more loosey in the back, which might give you a better turn, but will be more tire scrubbing in the back, so the rear tires will suffer a lot more with that setting. On the other hand, you can soften the front anti-roll bar, which puts a lot of pressure on the front tires, since they have to carry all the weight from left to right. So that might increase the front tire wear and make the rear a little bit more oversteery though, because yeah, as soon as you got more grip on the front, the car tends to be more oversteery. If that is some sort of logic in any way. So, we're back in the pits. Oops, that was not intended. So what we're gonna do is we now just try to re-stiffen the rear a little bit. Like we went down from 42 to 35. So we put it. We want to have a little bit more on the soft side, so we put it 38. To counter steer this loss of grip a little bit, we go Packers 08, and that should give us a little bit more turning car, but still a stable rear end. So let's see. We warm up our tires on our outlap. With this little stiffer rear end on the anti-roll bar, we should also be able to increase the turning speed into slow corners, since a little bit more stiff and rigid car in the back tends to turn around a little bit better. So if you guys later head out to try those settings yourself and find out something you wonder about, or if you encounter any difficulties or questions while doing your setup process, feel free to write me a message and shoot out your questions. I will then answer them later, that's for sure. Feel free to contact me on my Facebook site or here on YouTube directly, wherever you want. So now let's see, we should make up some time into turn 1 with that setting. In fact, we lost a tiny little bit. Yeah, but this was expected here, like the car just turns that tiny little bit more, you just need through those S's. And it turns a little bit more through turns 7 and 8, giving you a good exit out of 10. Late braking for 11. Car turns a little bit more, which means we carry out a lot more speed out of the slow corners. Hence why we go purple by 3.5 tenths at the minute. Late braking up for 12. Lost a little bit of time here, but we definitely should make this up through 14, 15 and 16. Which is the case, so we're back to 3/10. On this corner here, a little bit too much oversteer. But a very nice run through 19 into 20, the final corner of the track. Lost a little bit time on the curb here, so we go around for another try.
That was a 1:39.57.
I just outbroke myself into 1, but as you can see on the timing, there is a lot of a variety of lines you can use through 1. So you can through 3, 4, 5, 6, here into 7. Very important, the exit of 8 and 9 here. This was even a little bit better than before. Late on the brakes for 11, and we just outbroke ourselves. So, I'm a little bit more happy with the car, but not entirely happy yet. Especially through the fast corners, I would love the front end to turn a little bit more. Whereas the grip on the rear end is really on the edge, like you don't want to have it less, you don't want to really have it more, because the car does even turn less than. So we go back to the pits, do another series of switches. So this is a very flat track. So now we've lowered the packers from 3.3 in the back, that was, I think, to almost, yeah, I think 0.8 we have it right now. So we lower this to 0.5 because I can't really feel any bottoming him out whatsoever. And we go to let's make it 3 clicks softer on the front anti-roll bar, and by lowering the packers we allow the car to drop a little bit more on the rear to increase the effect of the diffuser. And on the other hand, we do soften the front, so especially for high-speed corners there is a lot of mechanical grip available, so we can go faster from left to right without having the car swinging around. So the combination of that should still give us a stable rear, but also a very fast changing and very fast cornering car on the front. So we try this out, and I think this is one of the last things we're gonna test today, because setting up the car not only means fixing the anti-roll bars, but also work on the packers, work on the tires, work on the springs, on the suspension itself. But this should be a very basic setting that should work on the car in general. So we just see whether we can make use of this setting. Feels a lot better, even a little bit more turning into the slow corners, which is really good. Let's see about turn 18. The car is a little bit tending to oversteer, but it stays stable overall, so that's really nice. So we head out for another try. A little bit twitchy rear. Going up the hill into turn 1, late on the brakes. Very nice traction, I have to say. Yeah, this is a really nice car balance, and you can see we just gained like 2/10 out of that in the first sector. And it really feels a lot better like this in slow corners, so we should make up some little more time into the final sector. Short shifting helps with the oversteer. Late on the apex out of 16, giving us some speed for turn 18 and 17. Nice stable car through here. Brakes for 19. Take with the speed into the final corner. And then we carry like 3/10 to the line. 311 to be precise. And now we try to evaluate the limits of the car and try to go even faster. To my personal liking, the car is still a little bit too twitchy. And I cannot pull in the consistency I just need. Late on the brakes for 12 again. Take first gear to make the car turn. A little bit too fast for 13. Let's see if we can make up the time. For 16. No, we cannot. Take a different line for 17. Get more stable exit out of 18. Probably won't be enough to the line. Nope, not really. So as you can see, there's a lot of work to do still with the setup. This setup in the end will be available for all Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy people. So if you're really interested in getting together and work with FSR guys, improve your driving, the Avid Chronic Racing Driving Academy offers you a great piece of literature, I think. A 65 page setup guide, which covers the very basic things of setting up a car. But not only that, it got some exclusive content. and will be improved in the future. So that's something you get as a reward as being inside the driving academy here. And of course you're gonna get access to even more exclusive data of Avid Chronic Racing, a team which has a lot of knowledge, that's for sure. So if you see yourself a chance to become a better or faster racing driver, and if you're interested in getting more knowledge, I really can encourage you to join that group. As I can see, as I said already, you find the link towards the driving academy and how to get signed up in the description below. So we just park the car in front of the garage, put in reverse, drive back into the garage again. Ignition off. So we simply save our setup here. As you can see, the car is factory defaults with some adjustments on the ARBs and on the Packers, just some basic things, as well as adjusted gearing, so it just can a little bit make more use out of the car's abilities. We keep that for now, and at this point I can only say thank you very much for being around, thank you very much for watching, and have a nice evening everyone.